Welcome to NuttieBuddie Entertainment. The Bad.
Okay, let's get into the bad. Okay, Chris, we'll start with you with the bad. You want to give us your first bad?
Yeah, I think this is really my only bad is that this is a thing I've complained about for like 4 Marvel projects in a row. It's too dark. The first like 45 minutes of the movie,
Yeah.
I'm like, my eyes are old. I can barely see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I know movie theater screens are like purposely made a little darker than like home screens.
Yeah, that's where I have the same issue with it. Especially, I said it's too dark, especially in the water. When we're talking about Namor City, like I would have loved to see more of it if it wasn't so dark the entire time. But part of me is like, is that just because seeing in the movie theater, like that contrast isn't there where it's bright enough? I don't know. I guess I'll kind of have to wait to see it at home. But yeah, it just seemed a little too dark. And that also could be because of CGI. Like the lighter you have it, the more you're going to see the flaws.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly why I thought. That's why so two scenes back to back. You had the attack on the ship. Like I said, it was very cool. To the point where then they jumped out of the water and there's kind of like a goofy CGI shot where the guy was like jumping over the railing or whatever. And then from that point on, it's really dark and they're like shaking the camera all over the place. And again, that's probably like the height. They're doing quick cuts so you don't see like obvious CGI or whatever. But I'm like, I can't see anything. I don't know what's going on. And then when the soldiers attack the Wakandan science place, and there's like an action scene. Again, it's in the dark. The camera's shaking around all over the place. Real quick cuts. And I'm like, I can't see a thing. What's going on? So I added on top of, I thought the same thing with what Brian said, the underwater city. You didn't really like see much of it, which I guess, they're like 9,000 feet down or whatever. It's going to be dark down there, but, we should be able to see the majesty of the city. So bad for me overall. Too much dark scenes.
I agree. I like, let's just hit on the city that was supposed to be Atlantis. It's Talokan, I think it's called Talokan. So I thought about this. I was like, so Atlantis in Aquaman looks so much better.
Yeah.
The Star Wars Episode 1, the Gungans had way better. Like just the visual was so much better.
Oh man, don't say the Gungans were better.
It's true though. I mean, like, come on, like I couldn't see anything. Shuri's like, oh, it's so beautiful. I'm like, how do you know? How do you know it's beautiful? The people. I don't know. I just felt they could have done so much better with the city. So the city itself was like a bad to me because it was supposed to be this grand, majestic, beautiful sight, awe-inspiring, and I didn't feel any of that stuff when we were going through it. Like
once that like underwater sun like started to come up, you could see a little bit better of it, which was also really cool to see. But yeah, it just wasn't bright enough, and which kind of sucked.
Yeah.
So, especially it's a city that's supposed to be exactly like kind of like what Wakanda is. And like that city is so cool. And like even when they had the scene where they were being attacked, you could all the what is it, life rescue people, like all of that getting deployed and all that through the city was really cool to see. And it would have been nice to see it there too.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I don't understand why they couldn't have made that more, I don't know, cooler, majestic, just like Wakanda, Along the lines, I might as well just hit on this too, because the people of Talokan, it's sort of inconsistent how they were portrayed. So, Okoye like cut them down, but then they like revived themselves or something like that, and they just start. But then when Nikita went and saved Shuri, like she shot one, but that one couldn't revive themselves. And then also in the last battle, they're like cutting them down, but like people are dying, but they're like, so I didn't quite understand. Are they all super strong? Are they all able to heal? Like sort of inconsistent throughout the movie on how they're portrayed.
Yeah, that was very confusing because you kind of thought like it almost made it seem like they're immortal or they could heal or something
Yeah.
like that.
That's what I thought.
And
Yeah.
yeah, which they never, if it was something where like, if they're on Earth and they're in or on land and they're not in water, they're more vulnerable. But if they're in water, they can heal themselves or something like that. I think that would have been a good explanation, but they didn't do anything like that. And yeah, that's something that was very confusing because it seemed like they would die some of the times and other times not really. So
yeah, I wish they would have kind of just made them like the Atlanteans, like that they could breathe above water, like that, because I didn't understand why they had to be underwater all the time, and it kind of made things a little, I don't know, inconsistent. Like, I don't know, I would rather have that. Also, it would have made the city much more cooler because you could actually had places where there was no water, and you could have like showed this, like, sort of like the movie Atlantis, with Disney movie.
They didn't have to be in water. They had those like breathing apparatuses and stuff. But yeah, I wasn't really expecting there to be like an underwater like civilization, but like there were like caves or something where there's actual, air. And that's also a thing that I think they're trying to separate themselves from like Aquaman, and this is one way we can do it. Because Namor and, like you said, Namor and Aquaman are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And they were just like, you got a white guy who's gonna be in water, we got a white guy who's gonna be in water. But Marvel now has a Aztec guy who's in water, so
yeah, in their faces. Yeah, that's all the difference they needed.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
You know what has a CGI cave and looks great? The Mount Moria in Rings of Power, the home of the dwarves. Looks fantastic. Looks majestic. You can see everything.
Yeah.
That's inside of a mountain.
Yeah, they could have done better. So, Brian, what's your first bad?
My first bad is, well, you had her in the good, I believe. Agent Fontaine.
I did.
I had her in my bad. I do love me some Marvel like continuity and consistency and looping things in, but I do not think we needed her and Agent Ross like to be a divorced couple.
That's fair.
And what she was kind of bringing, like, I thought it would have been cool if like, U.S. Agent, is that his name? If he would have kind of showed up in this, or someone from the squad would have showed up in this, especially with like the UN and stuff and like countries kind of going after Rwanda, I would have preferred that than they're kind of like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we used to be married. Ha ha ha. Now you're arrested, sort of thing. I don't know. I didn't really understand that.
Yeah, I would agree. I didn't like that either. I just liked her for the continuity of the end, because that's one of my big complaints of Phase 4 is, the last couple shows / movies had Wong and Val. Has been the connective tissue now but early on there was no connective tissue. So
they're setting her up like Nick Fury, it seems like.
Wow.
And I don't know. I'm just thinking about this right now, and I haven't really thought about it. But if that's the direction they're going with the Thunderbolts, it's gonna be a little weird, I feel like, especially like for like when Nick Fury showed up for stuff, it was mainly to incorporate like getting a team together, and I think that's fine so far with what she's been doing. It's kind of been getting people for the Thunderbolts, but in this, I didn't really like it because they made her part of the story, but it wasn't exactly like an important part of it to further the Thunderbolts in it. So
that's fair. It would have been kind of cool if she called, like you said, like if she was in there for a couple, maybe a scene or two, and where she's trying to see about deploying the Thunderbolts.
Just be like, yeah, Wakanda's vulnerable. Let's get in there or something. And send a team in,
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Let's see. Let me do my first bet. I'm going to talk about Namor and his motivations. They kind of change in the middle of the movie, and there's no definitive reason why. So his first motivation is there's this thing that can detect vibranium, and we need the scientist. So you get her for us, and we're going to kill her. Now, the question I have is, how do they know it's just one scientist? And then the other question I'd have, how do you know that the information ain't like that the government doesn't have all the information to build another one? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I had this exact same thought because they're like, we destroyed the one that exists, and if we kill the scientists, there won't be any more. And it's like, okay, if it's in the property of the U.S. government, they've already broken down all its components and they know how to make 10,000 of them.
Yeah.
Correct.
Like it's a little simple.
Correct. Now, see, nothing changes, and then eventually, after they catch Riri Williams and Shuri, he's like, now I want to go and attack the surface. So it changes abruptly with nothing to motivate his change.
Isn't it because she killed one of his people?
No, that's why
Yeah.
they attack Wakanda.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Wakanda is part of the surface world, so I think they were going. Well, he said he's going to attack the strongest force, which is Wakanda first, and then go for everybody else afterwards. But yeah, that motivation, I see the motivation to attack Wakanda because of what they did, but it's then go after everyone else where it's the iffy part.
So this was before the girl died, though, that was killed, because he was trying to get Shuri to join forces with him to attack the rest of the world. So that's why it's so weird to me. Now, the other thing is he sent Wakanda to go capture Riri Williams and because they didn't want to be seen, but then like he and his people go and be seen, like they go and like try to get Riri themselves, which makes no sense to me, because like why would you threaten to go to war with Wakanda if they don't get the scientist for you, but then you go get the scientist yourself anyway? Like that didn't make sense. So I kind of thought of this, and it's sort of like, remember the Riddler in Batman? It's sort of the same thing. Like his motivation was, let's kill politicians, the corrupt ones. And then for some reason at the end of the movie, he's like, actually, I'm going to flood the whole town and kill all these innocent people. And it's like, didn't make much sense. Where there was nothing in the middle of the movie that like changes his motivation. Like, so that I didn't quite understand from him. I didn't like that his motivations changed so abruptly without anything incentivizing his motivation to change. So I didn't like that. I also didn't understand, why did you go attack Wakanda and then be like, okay, bury your dead, be ready in a week and I'll be back? It's like, I mean, if you're going to attack a city as strong as Wakanda, why don't you just finish the job while you're there? I didn't quite understand that either. So those were a couple things with Namor that, although I thought the actor was really good, I thought the villain was pretty solid. The motivations is really what I was thrown off by when it came to that character.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to Chris. Do you have another bad for us?
I don't really, this isn't a bad, the Riri Williams, what's it? Ironheart? Okay.
Yeah.
No, I thought the actress is good. I thought she was a fun, bouncing off for Shuri. She was good as far as the plot, propelling it along. I just thought, this is me overthinking things, but I'm like, she's basically a genius that can like build anything. Like, why is she still at MIT? Like, go make money or whatever. It's like, I can do this, I can do that, but also I need to do a test tomorrow. Like, come on, you've already advanced past MIT.
Yeah.
I didn't like her.
Yeah, she's also in my bad.
Go ahead, Brian.
So, yeah, I don't know. I was kind of talking to Chris after the movie, and I don't think she was a fully like fleshed out character for them to put in this movie, especially with who she was like kind of adding onto with Shuri, her mom, everyone else, Okoye. Like, they're developed characters, and then to thrust her in there, and she just kind of seemed awkward and like all the scenes. Like there was some good like banter back and forth, but like just I don't know, like the scene where she's trying to escape and she's like flying through the sky and stuff. It just like it wasn't necessary, really. The same with like just like when she's in the lab building her suit and she's like cutting out pieces and she's like kind of like doing a spoof off of Iron Man where they cut out an iron heart or whatever. You're in Wakanda. You literally have a heart-shaped herb you're making out of a machine. You can't just make that suit in a machine like way better than you like cutting out pieces and stuff. It didn't really make sense at all. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think she was necessary for the story. It's kind of like an introduction for her because she's getting her own TV series. You know, it's a way
Okay,
for
I didn't
her
know
to
that was coming around.
be included with all the black people. So there you go. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think she was necessary.
I'm with you. I didn't like her. She was actually my ugly because I thought she was
Okay.
unnecessary to the story because eventually the motivation of the villain totally changed, which makes me wonder why he wanted to capture her if he was just going to go attack the surface. If he just changed his mind, then why did he need her anymore? Which again to me makes no sense. Her and Shuri were kind of the same person, except Shuri had more of a backstory. They both are young, intelligent, female characters that have a great grasp on technology. They're and then they both were sort of like, which I like, sarcastic, kind of, you said a good back and forth, Chris. So kind of like mocking or taking jabs at each other, but they were the same person. They were like I don't need two of them in the movie, what I'm saying? So if they would have, so I'm just saying, like, if they would have just took her out of the movie, you could have probably saved us about 20 to 40 minutes of time. And we didn't
know where we can cut.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll talk about that, but I was not a fan of her character. And I get she's getting her own TV show, but that's when she should be introduced. And then, who it reminded me of? American Chavez, in Multiverse of Madness. Basically, we're putting this character in to help forward the plot, and she, except like Riri's already good at everything she does, where I really wish we would have got to see her like trained to use this, much like Tony. I heard somebody say this. I'm like, this would have been really cool if they would have, how when Tony was captured by the terrorist, and he promised to do something for him, and he built the Iron Man suit and then escaped. He's like, why couldn't they do that to the the Atlantis people or whatever, where they like she kind of like has to build something to get her way out of there, and we get to see her do the same thing to sort of pay homage to Iron Man. I'm like, that would have been actually maybe cooler than her already having a working Iron Man suit. Like, we don't even get to see her build it. So anyway, long story short, not a fan of Riri, not in this movie anyway. Sorry, girl. Okay, let's see. Another bad I had. I'll go with the heart-shaped herb. Again, not very consistent on what it does and what it doesn't do. So Brian's like,
it's magic.
It just does it. It just does it. What does it do? It does it.
Technically, the Black Panther shouldn't have been killed by an illness. Yes.
Oh, we'll talk about that in a second.
But like I said, there's only so much they could do. And for some reason, I don't think that the family wanted Marvel to use his likeness or voice or like add him in without him actually being like him physically being in the movie. And that just kind of ties one hand behind your back on what you can do. So
they did show, they showed him in flashback at the very end though. So they must have gotten some sort of deal.
Yeah, but that was all old footage of, obviously from all the previous, Marvel stuff. But I don't think they like gave the rights to use like his voice or whatever, you know, in any of this, because I don't like we didn't hear his voice at all in this movie, which is kind of weird.
That is true. It's weird. But I did hear like his family was all for recasting T'Challa. So, you know, obviously I don't know what rumors to believe and not to believe, but I'm just saying like, so it's kind of funny if they would be okay with that, but not okay with like using his voice for a scene or two.
Recasting is one thing
Yeah.
because you're continuing the character, but you know, kind of just like taking his legacy and, you know, kind of putting it like CGI or something like that, you know, would have been something different. So
the thing is, if it gets recasted, I mean, not to be cynical, but they don't make any money. They get money if his likeness gets used, you know, unless it's something that Marvel owns part of, you know, the character of Black Panther. I don't know how that works, but
that's true. So let's just talk about this heart shaper real quick, okay? So first of all, go ahead.
This is in your bad, right? Not your ugly?
Yeah, bad. Is it in your ugly?
No, it's not. So yeah,
okay.
I was just double checking.
Okay, yeah, this is in my bad. Yeah, I got a couple different bands. Just because like there was some things that I was I don't know that so okay, so T'Challa dies by a disease. And for some reason they're trying to recreate the heart-shaped herb to heal him, but he already has the heart-shaped herb inside of him because he's the Black Panther still. So I don't understand how that would have helped. So go ahead, Brian.
Well, in a previous podcast on the movie, on the first Black Panther, I had said I don't know what they're gonna do for the next one because they burned all the herb. You know, there's nothing left for anyone, you know, whatever. And that they kind of show that in the scene because I think what they're thinking is if he has a stronger dosage of it, you know, kind of like re-up him. I don't know if it wears off or not. They never really explain like how long it's in your system. So I think their thinking was like, if they give him another dose of this, it'll help him fight whatever disease or something that he has. So
yeah, that could be it. But then, like, why did the Atlantean one, which is basically the same thing, why does that let Namor live for hundreds of years or whatever? You know, so it's like sort of inconsistent. So you have that part where it's like, okay, and then, you know, obviously they don't do that ceremony all the time. I imagine they take it once. I don't know. Maybe it wears off, but they were never very clear about that. That's the part of the problem is just like, it gives you power. That's what they tell you. Okay. So you should always have this power. In the first Black Panther, we saw Michael B. Jordan get stabbed in the chest right here. I double checked. He took it out. He died. We see Shuri get her spine severed.
Yeah.
And she somehow pulls the pole through her entire body and comes out and it heals her. I'm just like, then how didn't it heal Killmonger? Like, because the stab was not as like, to me, it wouldn't be as fatal to get stabbed right here, you know, versus your spine being severed and then you pulling yourself out of there. I don't know. Like that's sort of how I felt. So I guess I really wish they would have explained this a little better of what the heart-shaped herb does or doesn't do. I hate when powers are inconsistent. That's one of my biggest problems with Thor: Love and Thunder. So it's a problem a little bit here of what the heart-shaped herb does.
Namor is a little bit different because he's more immortal. His mother, you know, obviously his whole like tribe, like they drank that and she still died. Like she died of old age. So obviously like for her, and I think at all the other of his people, they like get old and still die. But I think the difference with him is that I think part of his mutation is that he's immortal. Like he can obviously die, but you know, it's not from like, it's more from like physical harm, like when Shuri was going to kill him and his powers were drained. So
right. Yeah. I guess I just wish
kind of wonder if he also gets like part of his immortality is from like the water somehow, because that was kind of how his powers worked. You know, fueling him off of the H2O basically or something.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, two quick thoughts. I also thought the pole going through her was a little over the top as far as surviving and whatnot. They could have maybe toned that down and made it a little more believable.
Yeah.
My thing with the herb was they made a big deal like, we don't have a Black Panther anymore. Herb's gone. We're in big trouble. And then, they're like a 2-minute montage. They're like, well, we just made a new one. We use science to make a new one. It's like, well, I understand, you got to sit down and, do your formulas and whatnot. But like, you could have done this like 9 months ago.
Well, I will devil's advocate here. She did need Namor's bracelet that had the plant.
That's right. Okay, yes, you are correct. So, Yep, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep, I retract that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But yeah, I just think it's a little inconsistent. And as far as T'Challa's death, I understand they had to kill him off because that's the route they chose to go. I just felt like they could have, because the nice thing about superheroes is you can put a mask on someone with the same body style and be like, that's the character. He could have died in battle. Maybe like Namor killing him could have been a way to kind of like start the movie off. Would have made a little bit more like sense. And like, as even like Okoye mentioned, like dying in battle is an honorable thing for Wakandans, and I just thought maybe that would have been a little bit more like honorable for the Black Panther to die in battle, T'Challa to die in battle instead of dying from a disease, which I imagine like the herb would have healed that because we don't even know what the disease is. Like it's a disease, it's there, it kills them, so I'm not and that's the other thing. So I just thought they could have done something a little different with the death with the heart-shaped herb and that whole storyline a little better. Be consistent. Okay, that's another bad I had. Any other bad guys? Okay, I'll get into my last bad. This wasn't okay, really quick nitpick. This is a nitpick bad. The drumming to open the gates at the beginning of the movie, I thought was a little silly. I don't know if you guys remember that when the Wakandans, like, so in the first movie, they just go in, the gates open up, and then they like drum the water to open up the gates in this movie. I'm like, did you really need to do that?
It's called rhythm, Ryan.
I don't have it. I could never open the gates. So it's
exactly. That's how they keep you out, man.
So a little spiteful on my end. Go ahead, Chris.
I have a kind of a similar thing as far as looking a little silly. Like I thought the whole funeral scene was really well done. It was very classy. And then at the end of it, the ship comes in and CGIs the coffin up into the ship and flies away. And I'm like, all right, it was a real nice, respectful funeral scene. And then we get some, goofy stuff at the end. Where is the coffin going? That's where I was mainly concerned. I'm like, what? The coffin flies away in the ship? Where is it? Where is he buried?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And finally, I felt a little different about Shuri. I didn't like her becoming Black Panther. I wasn't ready for her to be Black Panther. She was good in the movie. She was good for what she was given. I thought the actress did a good job. I just felt like, again, when she was in scenes, whether it was with Queen Ramonda, whether it was with Michael B. Jordan, whether it was with even Nikita, I just thought that those actors or Okoye, they like overpowered the scene, like in a good way, and very powerful. I never got that from Shuri, and I just think it's because I kind of liken it to you never seen Clone Wars, right, Chris? Okay, so maybe Brian, you'll understand this. Remember the first 2 seasons of Clone Wars with Ahsoka, and like the majority of people did not like Ahsoka because she was kind of a bratty teenager. I don't know when you watched it, but when it first came out.
Okay. I didn't realize that. Okay. I get what they mean, but she's still
teenager.
young.
Right,
Padawan.
exactly.
So
So a lot of people didn't like her at first, but then as we grew up with her, right, and saw her grow and stuff, everybody started to love her. And then all of a sudden, when you get that last season, when you see her like fighting Darth Maul, and then in Rebels when she fights the other guy, I don't know if I want to spoil it, but like you're like, oh yeah, she could totally do that, and like people began to love her. Shiri kind of was like Ahsoka in those first 2 seasons of Clone Wars. In the first movie, she was kind of like a bratty teenager. She was there for comedic relief, but like I don't think we got enough. I think it's because of circumstance. I think eventually it was supposed to be passed down to her, Black Panther, but I think it was kind of has to be now versus maybe when they wanted to do it. And I think I would have loved another another movie or 2 with her before I just, it's hard to go from where she was to where she is. And I don't buy it. That's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, she was forced to grow up when her brother died, and you can feel that through this. And yes, it felt like it was, this movie, and then maybe the next movie, she would be the Black Panther. There would have been some more development, but with how things were, it could have only been her to really take up that mantle. I don't think. Now, that being said, I don't feel like she's going to be the Black Panther for that long. I feel like she's just holding the mantle of it right now. Especially with like a little bit of confusion how the movie ended with her going away to I'm gonna say Haiti, not Haiti. I'm just gonna say it the English way. Going to Haiti and leaving M'Baku to become the king of Wakanda. Like, okay, that's her family who sits on the throne. She's basically giving that up, but she's still keeping the Black Panther. It's a little, I don't know exactly where that's going to go, but I definitely feel like she's just kind of like holding that mantle right now and not really like it's going to be her for like always forever. So yeah.
Interesting. I wonder if you're right about that. That'll be interesting to find out. But yeah, for me personally, I just didn't buy her as the Black Panther. That's all. That's, and maybe in a movie or 2 I would have, but it just kind of, and I'm not saying it's her fault either. It's just, what it is, what it is. Also, Bakhtu told her that he promised to protect her. Do you remember that? Promised T'Challa that he'd protect her. But like throughout the entire first half of the movie, he wasn't even around her. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Like that was kind of like okay, then why did you let her get captured? Go ahead, Chris.
That's a good point. I just want to add probably my single favorite moment of the movie was after she got her powers and then M'Baku was testing her strength and they did the Predator handshake and was doing it's like, that was great. I love that.
Yeah, that was fun. Okay, guys, are we ready to move on? Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the ugly.
Got one more bad.
No, I'm done. I'm done with the bad. But I didn't feel like any of these were worth ugly though. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't want to, because I thought I understood what they were doing. And I understand that there are inconsistencies within movies, but I hate when you don't try to be consistent. But anyway, let's go to the ugly. Thanks so much for watching this clip of our podcast where we reviewed Black Panther Wakanda Forever. If you'd like to listen to the rest of the podcast, look at the description below. You'll find a link to take you to listen to our other thoughts of the movie. Let us also know your thoughts of Black Panther Wakanda Forever in the comments section down below. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will talk to you guys soon.